from your perspective, you're single, dating, we're at that age, right? We're in our mid 30s that, like you hear that's the normal, right? It's like, oh, I should get married and have a baby, right? But that's not the reality anymore, especially in New York. I would say.
Oh, absolutely.
It's almost the minority that people are doing that. But I would love to hear from you, Jules, of like how you've, navigated it, and also just how, because I'll just speak for myself, right?
Sure.
When I was even 24, I was like, and I was always in a long-term relationship. And then we broke up and I was like, I have to find a new boyfriend and, go on that path. Right. And I unfortunately found Russ, who I love so much, but a lot of people have been more
I've had one boyfriend my whole life. So yeah.
Right. People are rightfully so. They're picky or they're not ready, whatever it might be. Right. So, and then you see a lot of your friends getting married, having babies. How do you navigate that? And also, how do you make sure that you don't get caught up in it and also have any sort of,
like resentment or
because I remember I had a little bit of that when I was single. It was like,
really, when you were single in your 20s.
Yeah.
You did?
Yeah.
For who? Bit. Like just random people you knew that were getting engaged or something?
Yeah, a little bit of that. And just, like, oh, you have a boyfriend. You shouldn't like worry about anything. You're like, don't be stressed. Like, I don't know. I had a little bit of that. I was in my early 20s and like a dummy, but,
but you don't
we
know.
Were all
like,
dummies.
You don't know.
No. Yeah.
And I feel like I was in the same boat as you. Like I was in a long-term relationship, like before I started, I call out RJ Palmer. Boo-boo.
Doesn't even exist. I don't think
it doesn't
anymore.
exist probably
it's
anymore.
Assembly now.
That's
oh,
so
right.
Well,
Shout
Assembly.
out.
Sorry, we not a fan.
We
RJ Palmer
like
all
to
the way.
still call you RJ Palmer. Whether
But
you
like, I broke up with my long-term, like literally starting that job
Many
went in,
years.
and I feel like I was a little. And it's funny because I have a different view. I was like, I'm free.
Really?
Free at last.
How long was
I
yours
was for
though?
a little bit, and then I was like,
And then
I
you kind of
hate
got a
men.
little.
And then you're like, I hate it all.
Yeah. So
How long was that relationship? That was long. It was long. How that first one?
probably like 8
Yeah,
years.
so same.
Oh wow,
You
same
were
as me.
same.
Like 8
9
years.
years.
Yeah.
Those
I
are
had
formative
maybe
years though.
7.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Still, like it's in the same ballpark. It was still, we still had, okay, so I actually didn't know that you had been with someone for that.
long.
And then, so like I was too. And like when I don't know, maybe because at the time too, I didn't have a lot of friends. All of my friends actually were in the same, I think that makes a difference, right? Like who you're hanging out with, if you're hanging out with a group of people that are moving forward. And then that's actually a good segue to you, because I feel like this group here, like your two friends here, like we've gotten married, we have babies. And like, again, how do you navigate like working around us?
How do I work around you guys?
Oh my God.
So this is such a loaded question because there's so many aspects to it that I am going to try to keep it as concise as possible, because I am going through what I think right now in total honesty and transparency. I didn't go through a quarter life crisis at all in my 20s. I do feel like I keep saying I'm going through a quarter life crisis right now because I'm feeling things I've never felt in my life, literally ever. And it's like these existential things that I never felt in my 20s. Right. So I will preface this and say, I do think there are some things in my life that I don't want to call a late bloomer, because everyone has their own journey and it doesn't have to happen on a timeline. But like I said, I had certain things that happened in my college years that gave me a very different college experience than when I got out. So like I said, I another time for another podcast, but I dealt with injuries that were very, very impactful on my life long term, from both a physical and from an emotional standpoint. So I was dealing with something like that led into my 20s. So I felt like a little bit of my college experience was delayed. And when I got into my 20s, Lauren was single.
Yeah.
A little bit. And I was, going out. So I did feel like a little bit of going a little wild in my early 20s. Probably. Yeah. I did enjoy college, trust me. So I did like go out and do stuff, but it was very ridden with a lot of emotional and physical stuff that I was dealing with. I didn't have a lot of boyfriends growing up. I've had one boyfriend my whole life. And that happened in my late 20s for about 2.5 years into my early or 30 or 31 or something. So me personally, I'm not someone who like went from relationship to relationship. I had crushes, went to a very small school. So that also was a little bit of a hinder to it in the sense that it's not like there were like thousands of kids. They all kind of felt like my brothers.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, there were some cute ones and whatever, but I was naive. I was young. I grew up in a pretty, I would say, protective household as well.
Right.
So I've learned I have OCD. Now that I know I have it, I look back on certain behaviors and I'm like, that influenced that.
Right.
So there's a lot of complicated things that go into it. But that being said, I didn't have a lot of boyfriends. So in my 20s, I was pretty much single through my whole 20s. I experienced the full dating range.
Right.
Of before apps, during apps. So then I did have one relationship that was about 2.5 years. And it was good. There's no bitterness. There's nothing. Obviously wish the person very well. I've never been that person who had a timeline.
Right. That's
so I
important.
think, I think for me, and I don't know if it was the influence of I don't know, because my parents just want us all to be happy. My dad definitely like would love if I was in a relationship because then he'd have another friend or whatever. Like, you know what I mean? Another boy around the house or whatever. Aww. But like, they definitely want me to be happy in whatever I do. So I've never felt pressure from my parents. And I guess that's maybe
so
not
important.
Unique. I don't know, but I never felt pressure. So I just kind of was free flowing for a long time, and I still am. So that perspective of not really having a timeline, I didn't have like what you said when you're in your mid 20s, like I have to be. It was more that I wanted a boyfriend.
Right.
It wasn't like I had to be because by this time, whatever. In your 20s, you're like, oh yeah, like by the time I'm 30, like you think you're going to be like, it's just going to happen. Like you're just going to be married by the time you're 30.
You do.
You do.
Yeah.
When we were,
You just think these things happen.
Yeah. When you're in high school, I think when I was dating,
30
because I was in
old.
I was in that long-term relationship. So I was like, well, I'm going to be like 25 and married with a house and I'm working in Manhattan. And I mean, I was working in Manhattan. So check.
Right, you got that on your list.
I was broke up with the boyfriend.
Check.
That was not on the list.
That's a cross off,
Gonna
not a
start
check.
that one over. And you plot out certain things. I think what you go through in life. So like I think that's why, like Wendy, to what you were saying before, like you were kind of maybe a little that like resentment. And I do understand that because I also like at the time thought like, by 25, I will be married.
Yeah, I didn't really
and like
think
I'm gonna
about
have
it.
my first kid by 29,
Yeah.
and like that's completely
I
not
did
the
no
world
planning.
that I
Zero
live
planning.
in.
Zero planning in my 20s.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Some people come out of college and have a plan for
Right.
some reason. That's just how they function. And they with the job ladder, the career. I had none of that. None of it. And you can see in what I do now, I still am pretty free flowing, right?
You're the most free flowing person I know.
Which I am
love it.
adjusting.
I love
I am
it.
adjusting for myself for
Yes.
things. Okay. But what I'm saying is now in my 30s, pre-COVID, I was still feeling like there was no pressure for me.
Right.
COVID happened, which I think kind of
right.
screwed up a lot of people in their early 30s.
100%.
So I'm not the only one here. I'm single, right? Then COVID happens. Those are formative dating years.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Not just for me, for anybody who is not 22.
Right.
Like those are formative
Even
dating.
2020 or
Yeah.
like even them, it's like, okay, now I'm 25
You're
and I
just
didn't get to
different.
experience
The
that
23,
you
24.
know, it's literally everybody.
There's a jump of 2 years where I had just been single for a year or two. I thought I was going to be dating and having a great time, 33, 34. COVID happens.
Right.
And all of a sudden, everything shuts down and then you're 2 years older. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. My actual age does not resonate with me whatsoever.
Same.
No, it doesn't with me either.
I have a hard time with
We
it.
always say we're like 27. I would
That's
say
how I
that's my vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
I'm never leaving the 20s.
Bye.
Bye.
That door has shut. So for me coming out of that, you guys were still not pregnant
Right.
after. So all my friends at that time were still single or dating or just married. No one was really going crazy with the children yet.
Right.
So I still felt a part of the group. Like I still felt very like grounded in that sense of a community, right? Definitely I went through a lot of changes with work. That's a whole other thing, but it definitely made some changes in my life and where I was kind of situated. I was a little nomadic, so I was traveling from place to place. So that affected friendships more than I liked because I didn't feel a part of certain things.
Right.
But that was just because of life. The babies and the everything else, for me, I still didn't feel pressured until after COVID. So after COVID was when I started to feel all of a sudden like I got to freeze my eggs. I started to feel those existential crisis moments more than I did pre-COVID.
Yeah.
I think now how I navigate it is I'm still working on it. That's what I can say. I'm still personally, as a single person with friends who have babies now, cousins who have babies who are my age.
Yeah, right.
I'm one of the only single people in my age group now in my family as well. It's not even just friends.
Right.
But I would say, to add to that, you're not, I mean,
I'm
you're
not.
friends with, with all my, like a lot of
there are a lot
friends
of single friends that I have.
I
thank God.
have more single friends than I do married and
too.
kid friends. Like,
Right. So that's what I will say.
Yeah.
I'm very fortunate that I have people in different stages of life.
Yep.
Still, I will say that I do miss going to happy hour with you guys all the time, which is just normal.
So do I.
We miss
right?
that as
So
well.
do
I miss, I miss like all the random stuff that you can't do anymore.
Right.
And it's not that you can't, it just has to be planned.
Yeah,
Right.
There's no
And
there's no
there's no
randomness,
randomness.
and that
Exactly.
I miss. That
Yeah.
I truly miss. I think that's a
Absolutely
big
do,
thing.
too.
Is like you can't just spur of the moment be like, I'm gonna go have Sunday fun day today.
Right, right.
You know, like no, that doesn't happen.
And when
And
they
when
are
you
your
do,
close-
you're
Yeah.
like, oh no,
No,
what did I do?
yeah. Oh
can't
well.
I can't
function the next
No,
day.
no.
And also,
but that's another thing. I feel like I am that way now too, though. So even though I don't have a kid,
right. Yeah, you are.
I
Yeah,
have in the
that's true.
past year with my own journey in terms of me physically, emotionally, mentally have changed a lot, that I don't do any of some of the same things I did anyway, even if you guys were single.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
I would still need my
Agreed.
sleep. I would still
need-
need
yeah.
to be drinking differently. I would still need to be doing things differently.
'cause we're
So-
getting
Probably do a
older.
lot more brunching, I would
Yeah,
say.
for
daytime,
sure,
which
for
is why
sure.
Sunday fun day, daytime.
But yeah, anyone in
Home
this
by 8,
position,
yeah.
anyone who's like single probably understands, though. Yes, you do feel sometimes like conversations can be a lot about kids. And I'm not
Right,
just saying
right.
you two. I'm talking
Yeah.
about in family
Yeah.
conversations. I'm talking about
Yep.
everywhere. Like I look at my Instagram, it's all babies. I don't have a baby. And which is cute, and I don't mind it, really. I don't mind it, but I'm just saying these are like things
That's interesting.
that
You
are
don't
different.
mind it, because I remember. So I'll just say I had. I didn't have the easiest time getting pregnant. I'll probably talk about my journey at some point in the future, but not ready now. But I remember really struggling
With
to
seeing that?
see
Yeah.
babies. Not that I don't love my nieces and nephews and love babies in
Right.
themselves. It was just really hard for me to see that. So
Yeah.
it's great that you're
I
able
do
to.
and I don't. I'm like, well,
Yeah.
is this the content I want to see?
Right,
more
right.
than like, I'm not like mad at it.
Right.
It's more just like, I'm not. This
You're
is
like, can
not-
my algorithm?
Can my
like,
algorithm
shift
change?
a little?
But it's also
Like-
my fault because I see funny baby things and I send them to you, so it's half my problem.
And we're also sending you funny baby
I
things
know.
as well. We're like, hey, like this is hilarious.
It's
So,
so
like, you
true.
just might understand.
It's so true. But yeah, I don't know how to really, it's hard for me to answer the question because I'm going through it in real time. I know more people are probably going to have kids. I'm going through it with, family members who are my age who have kids now. And while I know that some of my insecurities, like I do, yes, I'll be honest, I'm ready for a companion.
Yeah.
I am ready to now have that part of my life. I don't know when I'll have a kid. I'm not saying I have to have it tomorrow. I'm not even talking about marriage. I'm talking about just companionship.
Right.
Right. Like in this state of life now that I'm in, the thing I feel the most is that I have friends, I can make plans, I can go do things.
Right.
But the idea of a consistent companionship is what I feel the lack of more than anything
Right.
else. When people are siloed off in doubles, right?
Yeah.
Like everyone has a double. It's hard to feel a sense of community right now for me.
Yeah.
And I know
get
there's
that.
many
Yeah.
factors that go into that, and it has nothing to do with relationships.
Right.
I'm still figuring out like work, and I'm still figuring out where do I want to live, you know?
Right.
So like I'm going through very different existential crisis things than you guys would be right now.
Yeah.
So I know it's not just one thing or the other. It's a combination of things that
Right.
make me feel the way I feel right now.
Right.
But yeah, it is interesting because one of the factors is friendships with people who have kids and family members who have kids.
Right.
And you do start without wanting to feel it, It's not like I sit here and I'm like, oh my God, I have to be married. And oh my God, I have to have kids at this very moment.
Right.
I don't feel that. I honestly do not feel that at all, but it gets shoved in your face.
It does.
Oh my
That's,
gosh.
yeah.
And I think
see
that is something that a lot of the world and society may not be conscious of, and it may not be a popular opinion, but I do think that the idea of coupling and the idea of marriage and babies and all of that gets shoved in your face.
Yep.
I just think it should be another option.
100%.
Right?
And that's where I'm going back to my
Yeah.
20-year-old self. It was like my brothers were both married. My parents met when they were 20. You know, it kind of was not in a bad way, but shoved in my face. And then you feel like, oh, I'm not able to find somebody right. I don't know. It's a weird thing that society does.
It's
and
a
that's
societal
why
thing for sure. Some people inherently do not want to have a partner.
Right,
And that is
right.
absolutely
That's
fine.
great.
There are people that literally choose behaviorally to not have a partner. And that is fine. And I think we need more room for that.
We
for
do.
people. It's like a stigma for some weird reason that
Yep.
there's something wrong with the person, that they don't want it. And it's not just about the marriage. There's so many things that society is ingrained in you that's like in you that you didn't even know was there until it starts coming out.
Right.
And you're like, why do I think that way?
Right.
Like
right.
what informed me that was going to be it? I like that we have these conversations because I think that it's so important for other people to be felt and heard that a different way is okay.
Right.
And
right.
you're allowed to change too.
Yeah. Well, and that's, again, not to bring up the divorce rate again.
No,
but
yeah.
it's also
Not
you
to
know,
just,
why,
sour everything.
50% people.
Can you imagine if, like, as friends, we had to just be like, oh, we have to, like, in order for you to officially be my friend, we have to, like, get married or something.
Right,
And
yeah.
then, you know, we can't
Sign a contract.
Like, sign a
Get
contract.
tattoos on our faces.
Right. You know, and
We've
it's
definitely
like,
contemplated a group tattoo. I'm so
sure.
happy we haven't.
I'm sure. But, and not that I have anything against marriage. I'm very
Right.
happily married. I love that, you know,
The
I have that
institution,
bond.
some people love it.
It's-
Tradition. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing.
do what you
I
wanna
love
do.
Russ, but yeah, it's like
do what you want to do what
Right.
makes you happy. I think there's too many people out there though that like and people are so mean and people are like
Yeah.
you know they're like I feel like there's actually a lot that I see lately that's against marriage because I
Interesting.
think there's an uprising now of the
definitely
younger
is.
generations that are pushing back on
Right.
traditional norms. I think our like group probably did that a little bit as well and I
yeah.
think that's coming forward, but now I think it's getting too mean and I'm like
Yeah, the
okay
meanness is
like
where
you
we gotta
don't need
stop.
to be like
Yeah.
mean like because like if look if
someone
you don't want
wants
to get
to- yeah.
married don't get married. If you want to have kids if you want to
Right.
have kids and not get married like everybody
Let people be.
says to like you know be like accept everybody.
You don't have to be right.
But people
That's
actually
the bottom
don't do
line.
that.
Yeah.
Like people are not accepting. I think people like want to go out there and say like let's you know let everyone do what they want, but I think at the end
Then
of the
they don't
day
act that
everyone's
way.
still got an opinion and they go on Facebook or Instagram or whatever and
Yeah.
they
That's
just
where they
trash
take it out.
and they trash
Yeah.
talk people and it's
Yeah,
like
it's
you know you
wrong.
see an article like and I get so aggravated. I don't know why I open this stuff, but like you see an article about like someone who made the decision to not have kids right now and then
It's
I
like
look at
looks
the
down on people
comments
who-
and
yeah.
everyone commenting is like yeah, kids are terrible. And I'm like, okay, hold on a second. Like, I don't know why we had to get to the level of kids are terrible. Like, I think it was
Right.
Seth Rogen. Seth
Exactly,
Rogen
exactly.
apparently made a comment or something that like he doesn't want to have
Yeah.
children and like that's his decision. And everyone's like, go Seth Rogen. Like, okay, cool. Good
Yeah.
for you if you don't want to have kids. But then
There's no
you
need
get a
for the
lot of
other
people
nasty
that'll be
stuff, yeah.
nasty about people that do have
there is that
kids.
other side.
And I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, wait, can we just find a
Yeah.
middle ground?
Yeah.
Like,
or
No,
just let
100%.
people do what they feel
do what you want
and
and
what
stop
they
being mean about
want.
it. Like
Yeah.
everyone's always got to be nasty to the person.
We don't like the nastiness.
No, I think no matter what you choose for your life, it's your life. You're
Right,
living it.
right.
Like if that makes you happy, whatever makes you happy is
I
what.
know.
And that's what I've learned. I'm like, this is like, you know, what I've chosen in my life. Sometimes I'm happy, sometimes I'm not. Like having a child is hard,
and
and
learn.
I also feel like there's a lot of elements of my old life that I do miss. And like, you know, I think you have to find, you know,
But
I
I
have to
think-
find new ways to do things that I used to
Exactly.
love.
Right.
And like
Exactly. That's what I
that's
was just gonna
something I'm
say.
trying to figure
It's
out.
a new season. You're
Yeah.
going to have to try to, as a new parent, new person almost, because this is a different way of relating to the world now that you have a kid.
Yeah.
All those things will have to take a new form for you.
Yeah.
And you just over time figure that out. But yeah, but going back to like, I'm having an existential crisis a little bit about a lot of these things. It's no one's fault. It's just my own internal stuff that I think has now become more and out in the open for me than it was prior to COVID, to be honest with you. Part of it is, yes, some people are having children. Part of it is age. Part of it is, you know, my uncertainty and trying to figure out work. So there's a lot of things that make me feel unsettled. But my point being is, yes, I do think from a single person's perspective, and I don't know, I mean, you can tell me from your perspective, I do feel like it's an unproportionate amount of stuff that gets shoved in your face without asking for it as a single person.
Yep. 100%.
And because I can't think of the opposite, you know, I'm like trying to think of the opposite of like, you're not a single person. You're with a partner. What gets shoved in your face?
Well, I remember even, again, going back to just being on social media. And I remember, again, seeing pictures of babies or like whatever it is, right? And I think there's a right way to do it in the sense of, you know who your, like, the friends that follow you are. If there's one that's potentially really struggling, like, maybe try and hold it back. Be sensitive, right? So I think it's a balance in social media. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I did create Sky's own account, because I didn't want, you know, and again, it depends who your friends are, but like, and it was more a personal thing for me than anything. Like, now when I see babies' pictures, like that's what I want all the time. I want like all my friends' babies' pictures. So I'm like, I don't want to even have to follow another account. Like, well, I love when I can follow another account, but yeah, I mean, I think, again, I was somebody that had issues getting pregnant, so it was hard for me sometimes to see. I would say when I saw like my best friends' babies, that was a different story than seeing like my tertiary friends' babies.
Like, I hated that bitch like,
anyway. Yeah, when you just see too many, it's different, you know. So
it's all circumstantial.
It's all circumstantial, yeah. So I think there is an element of just needing to have, but then now that I've had a baby, I get why people only want to post about their baby. I totally do, because they're your world. The love of your life. Them. Oh, man. Like, they're a part of you, you know? So, but I do think it's so important to be sensitive. So I'll give you an example. Like, at work right now on my Slack, like, I have, you know, you can put a picture on your, I don't know if you have Slack at work, but say like I put a picture of me and of Sky and I on my Slack, right? And I put it and I was like, oh, I should maybe think twice about doing that, because there are people that maybe can't, again, you know, you just become more sensitive, and it's something that I never thought about until I went now. Yeah. And now I have that perspective.
See, I never thought of it that way.
Sometimes it can
it
hurt
does.
somebody.
Yeah,
right?
that's true. Like, I never thought of it that way.
So there's like two layers to this in terms of relationships. So the first thing I would say is people have their own agency. They can decide to shut it off.
Unfollow.
They can unfollow.
Yep.
They can do those things. So there's that one aspect. On the one hand, yes, you do have the ability to shut something off, to not participate, to set up boundaries, and to do those things. And I think that's one aspect that's really important in relationships. And to not take things personally. While I'm still going to say, yes, a lot is shoved in your face, I do think you also do have the ability to take some ownership and to say, okay, I need to speak up, or I need to say what my needs are, right? It's not always on the other person. Right. And I think that's a general thing about friendships and relationships. So like, if I am feeling distant from one of you, I should say something. Lauren is the sweetest person, so she may not have the same experience or perspective that Wendy has. So Wendy's super conscious, right? Wendy is a person that would be super conscious about posting about her baby just because of her experience in getting pregnant and having a baby. Lauren had a different experience, so she's going to post her baby because she doesn't, it's totally normal and a normal thing to post her baby. So her sensitivity is going to be different than Wendy's.
Right.
So people seeing those things that might be offended by it have to also have their own ownership and knowing it's not about them.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like, your feeling is valid. You could be upset. And this is, you know, this is a general thing about emotions. Your feeling is 100% valid, and you can talk about it, and you can express it, and you can deal with it how you need to deal with it. But that next level of then turning everyone else into the enemy.
Yeah.
Is like something I think you just have to be conscious about, that you don't do that, because you're going to live a really angry life.
There's people that I know like that.
A lot of people do that.
There's a lot of people. And those
I'm not perfect.
No.
Look, everything I do and say, I am not perfect. I've been there. I've done it. I will continue to fail. You know, I am saying, yeah, that you're getting shoved in your face, but not woe is me, because there is a part of things that you can control and that you should take ownership of as a human being in your own life. Yeah. That being said, there are conversations where other people aren't cognizant of how much they're doing something or whatever. And those are moments where it is an appropriate thing, I think, to say something. Right. And that's where the imbalance, I think, is. Like, I do think there are a lot more people that are not cognizant of what they're putting out there that could be sensitive for someone else. So it's the balance of both. You got to take ownership, and it would be nice if people also thought about the things they said and did at the same time.
The world is not out to get you. Right. Like, people are not out to get you. And it's not that, like, you're not important. It's just like, hey, like, this isn't meant to, like, offend me.
Happens.
Like, life happens. Like, I think one of the things, you know, as you're thinking about, like, doing this, I think you wrote a note or something like that said, like, do you feel like you're personally, like, not included anymore? I actually don't feel like I'm not necessarily like, I know why I'm not included. You know what I mean? Like, I already know, like, I'm not getting asked to this because I'm going to say no. Like, I know I'm going to say no, because
or I'll feel pressure to say yes, and then that would be
that's
terrible.
probably why
and
they ask me. They don't want to
so
put pressure
and
on
I
me.
I don't get offended, because I think I'm at the point now where I'm like, you wouldn't, like, I don't think I made it to your birthday, Wendy, like, last year. And but I was, like, so pregnant, like, and I was just like, I don't think I'm gonna make it or whatnot. And you're like, it's fine. And I felt so bad about it. No. Like, Wendy's not gonna hate me. Like, we're all very understanding people. We get, like, what the situations are, but, like, I don't feel personally, like, attacked, but I do feel like I'm missing out. Like, I don't feel like FOMO. I'm not, FOMO. I'm not mad.
Would you rather just be, I talked about this with Wendy in the car the other day. Would you rather be invited and know you're going to say no, but know that you were included in the thought process?
Yeah. I would.
You would, right?
You want to know that, like, hey, like, someone said, I would love Lauren to be here.
Right.
Like,
but I will say there's that element. I don't know, when I get invited to something and I really don't want to go.
You're like, almost wish you weren't invited.
I kind of wish I wasn't invited, but
that's why you just have to take ownership.
And that's why I need to be able to say no
and not, that's it.
Yeah.
That's a hard thing to learn.
I had a hard thing with
We're
it
yes
this week.
people.
We are yes
people. That's why we freak out so much when we have to say no. And I think that's, like, a lot of us.
People.
We all don't want to disappoint anybody. And I think now that goes to, like, my kid. Like,
I struggle with that. I struggle with that.
Yeah.
And also, people need to accept no's more. Like, hey, I'm not, like, I just can't make it. It's
that's
too
definitely,
much.
I try to do that now, because, like, even when it comes to me being single and going out in the city or whatever it is, there are a lot of plans that keep coming up. And my lifestyle has changed a lot.
Yeah.
You know, I'm trying to be open and honest about it with my friends, right? You know, I need to sleep more. I need to be I'm very focused on my work, the podcast, you know, obviously my mental and physical health.
Yeah,
my health, I know. Obviously. So, like, I've had a lot of changes, you know, and that has definitely affected me in terms of saying yes. I can't go to everything.
Right.
And it's not personal.
No.
I just have to figure out how to say no and be okay with that, but saying it in a compassionate way. I'm not, obviously I want to be able to go to do all these things, but, you know, as a single person who still, thank God, people somewhat think of me sometimes to go do things, like, it is very difficult, and I don't know when we'll get over it, but I still feel like exactly how you guys feel. Even though I'm better at it, I still get that, like,
why do we have this mentality?
I don't know.
How do, like, I feel like
is it a
lot
woman
of us,
thing?
I don't know. Maybe
I think it's definitely more a women thing, because like, guys are.
Dale doesn't.
I mean,
care.
not to say like, again,
care to
guys
tell anybody no. Don't be
and
like,
also
no.
pronoun. Like, I want to be conscious of pronouns. Like, I'm just speaking of, like, the, you know, female guys that I've dealt with, like, and they're very much like, nope, can't make it, doing, like, don't even have to give you an excuse.
They're just like,
no.
That's
the other thing. We always feel like we have to give an excuse.
No, man, not gonna be there.
It's true. The excuse thing, like, we always feel like we have to back it up with a good reason.
Yeah.
Right.
And I've started to realize, like, you don't have to explain yourself anymore. If someone's going to get that upset and mad at you for having to take care of something that you need to do, or your mental health that day, or whatever it is, is that real friendship?
Right.
Is it?
Agreed.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. You know, it really makes you think about, how does this person make you feel? Like when you leave their presence, how did that make you feel? And do you leave invigorated? Do you leave calm? Do you leave, you know, it's so funny. I've heard this in terms of dating, right? Like when you go out on dates with someone or you meet someone, and you really need to take a gut check in terms of physically. How do you feel when you walk away from that person? That's really telling, right? Do you feel uncomfortable? Do you feel confused? Do you feel agitated?
Right.
You know, and I think your body tells you a lot. And stuff with your friends, your body tells you a lot.
It does.
Really informs a lot.
That's a
And you have to
big
listen
conversation.
to that.
That's a whole other conversation.
I feel like
Sorry.
that's a whole.
I feel like I throw in bombs.
No,
and
because
then I'm like, shoot, we don't have enough
feel
time
like
to talk about
that's
that.
what. Yeah,
podcast.
I feel like I could talk about that for like.
Oh God, and especially now, let's get into that though. Hormones. We were chatting about that. We want to get to your point quickly about your physical body, because you were saying dealing with hormones, like during pregnancy and post-pregnancy, emotionally and all of that.
I think it's one of those things that you prepare yourself, or you can read whatever it is about the physical aspect, right? You know, you're going to struggle to sleep potentially, you know, you'll like be in pain, maybe like after you have a baby, right? But then all of a sudden, you know, like 2 months after you have the baby, you're like, why am I like weirdly, and I didn't have postpartum depression or anything. Like I was assessed for that. It was just more so my, you know, mental aspect of just feeling like, oh, I need to be there for Sky. I need to also have this element of feeling still like myself, and just feeling a lot more volatile in terms of just who I was. Like it wasn't who I was before I had Sky. No. And that doesn't mean that I don't love him more than anything in the world. It was just more like, who am I? Like, why am I waking up today feeling this way? And maybe this is something that a lot of people deal with when they're bipolar or whatever, you know, having like whatever it is, but it's just something that it's unpredictable, and I wasn't
you lose a sense
prepared.
Of control too.
Yes. Like I thought, I was like, I can control my, you know, physical, like it sucks if you're in pain, but you're like, okay, I know I can call a doctor and say, what can I do to help with this pain?
Symptoms.
Or like, these are my symptoms. Yeah. I can take Advil, Motrin, whatever it is. But then, I mean, I know there's, you know, medication too for that, for the mental aspect as well. But it's just something a lot of times you don't realize is going to happen. Like, and again, I know postpartum depression is a thing, like, and then you're also, but again, there's so many variations of
the
that,
variations.
of like highs, the ultimate highs with a baby too, and then the lows, and you're just like, and then also getting back into drinking is a whole other thing too, where you're just like,
your body
how much
is
can
so
I drink?
different.
Like, your body's so
different, and like, your body is still undergoing a lot.
Oh my
now,
God,
this
recovery.
is dependent on like.
I know it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah,
but can you think about the physical trauma from a physical standpoint? Nothing spiritual, nothing whatever it is.
Right. Like talk about a knee surgery.
Yeah,
like you were
which
saying,
is nothing
right?
compared to giving birth. Like if I've had that from that, like
I don't know how people are supposed to recover
trauma. I always
from that.
am mind blown. What women who give birth, anybody that gives birth, holy moly. What you have just done is almost incomprehensible to me. Yeah. You are created a life, you've given it, and your body has just gone through this insane physical feat.
Right.
That then we get back to society.
Yep.
Yes.
Boom.
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 Lay down the hammer.
There is absolutely no grace.
There is none.
No grace, period.
That's what's terrible about it, is your body goes through such a traumatic event.
The fact that there are limits on your health and healing process
and mental,
and mental
and it's beyond
where I need to be.
It's physical and mental. It's physical and mental, because I feel like I had a really rough birth. I feel like it was quick, but it was rough.
Intense.
It was intense. So my recovery physically, I think I wasn't even able to really focus on myself mentally and like my mental health, because my physical was so poor, and I made the decision to breastfeed. So my body was also, I was still, the exhaustion, the recovery, like I see like people like you again, society, you see some people who are pregnant who have had their babies and they're out like and about like 2 weeks later,
which
I don't think I felt
so
no
ridiculous.
and I didn't feel comfortable leaving the house until probably like 3 months because that's how poor
awful you
felt. I just
your body had to heal.
Yeah, my body was not, like I said, just really rough experience for me. And like, I think I ignored my mental well-being, but like I went to the hospital like a week after giving birth because I was so anxious about like my blood pressure and like I started testing my blood pressure and I saw it was really high and I made Dale take me to the hospital like in the middle of the night with the like drop the baby off at my mom's like 2 weeks. It was a week or two in and like I think I ignored that like anxiety is also a huge thing. And like my anxiety was like my blood pressure skyrocketed. You know, I was anxious about Reese like choking in her sleep. I couldn't, but like it got a little,
this is what
it got a little bit overboard.
Yeah.
The high, like it got a little overboard and like Dale would be like, you got to take a breath. Like, I'm like,
is there
it's
anything
overwhelming
about those experiences now that you would say if you looked back or you had like another child that you would think you would be able to be a little more neutral about those things because you've been through it once? Is there a perspective on it now that you've had it that like you may not worry as much the second time, or we just not know until it happens?
I don't think I would be as worried about certain things like the whole sleep, like God, SIDS like plagued my life. I was just like, Reese is gonna turn over in her sleep and stop breathing, and like I bought a $1,000 like sleeping device so she could not.
We should also get into a list of things you do not need.
You
don't.
What you need. I think that helped me a little bit. I will say,
a little piece of
because
mind.
it gave me a peace of mind, especially at that point. But I don't think like there would be certain things like I think we had Reese sleep in a pack and play like for the first time and not in her snoo, which if anybody knows what the heck that is,
even I know what that is.
Yeah, I
want to sleep in it.
I mean, it's hay. Like, I mean, it rocks you to sleep. It has noise. White noise is like my life. I feel like I live in an insane asylum half the time because it's just white noise like, everywhere. Everywhere you go.
Saying that to me when I was like, "Do you have the white noise playing?" You're like, "Yeah, it's an asylum in there." I know it is.
It is every room you go into, and then it's like, and then my husband Dale, he's very like, everyone, you can't make a noise, and I'm like, well, there's white noise, and there's an air conditioner, and they're like, and she's in the back of the room,
the radiator's knocking.
She's not gonna hear you say like, let's turn the TV on from the living room, But anyway,
I can picture him like whispering in the corner.
I mean, he's whispering when I come out of the bedroom when I've put her down for a nap, and I'm like, it's okay. We can talk at normal volume. Like, it's fine. She won't hear you. But, I think that like at this stage, if I were to have another child and I put my kid in the pack and play, I wouldn't have that same level of fear because you can I think you have some sensibility to know which like Reese was just, I think, like a very strong baby. That kid was like moving up on her side by like 3 months. Like she was like in control. So like also depends on your
days
kid.
And hours and seconds.
No.
3 months.
So it'd be 12 weeks
and 13
seconds, 2 days, 4 hours. No, but like she just was, you kind of get a gauge like on your baby's health within the first few months. So like maybe I think you still have that anxiety the first like couple weeks because you don't know yet, but like I think you get a sense of like what your child's capabilities, and every baby's different and every experience is different.
What's hard is every baby.
Yeah,
is
your next
so
baby could be totally different.
It could be different. Yeah,
even the snoo, right? It recommends at 3 months to start adjusting where, like, if your hand is out or whatever it is, but.
I didn't do that.
Whatever it is, it's like the first year.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
They try and be like, oh, it's 7 months, do this.
Right.
But actually, for another baby, it might be 10 months.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it really stressful for the mom.
Figuring out where's your baby at.
Where's my baby? Like Sky, for example, right now is not crawling. He's hitting every other milestone. Right. And, eating well, blah, 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 and like starting to almost walk. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if he walks before he crawls.
Well, that's how
then
Gabriel was.
Some babies do.
My nephew, yeah. He like barely crawled.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Literally, he did the monkey walk.
Well, he did like an extreme like
Mowgli
ninja warrior crawl.
Yeah, literally. And then walk, but he didn't do like the really traditional.
He didn't do the traditional, right?
Yeah,
so, and
right.
a lot of the pediatricians are trying to, and they have to say, okay, these are the milestones.
CYA.
This is
What's
right,
that mean?
Exactly. Right.
What? Cover your ass.
Yeah.
Oh.
CYA.
CYA.
Yeah, they do, because if you don't, and if they don't
They didn't tell
expose
you.
it,
Yeah.
then all of a
yeah.
sudden he
They get
has,
sued or whatever.
motor issues, then whatever it is, right? So then that adds another element of stress to the mom, where it's like, again,
So many
we talked about
elements.
this with pregnancy too. It's like
stress.
they have to tell you XYZ, everything they see in the scan, even if it's a little negative, because they have to CYA.
Yeah.
And that adds so much
I feel
stress
like I do
to
that
the
in
mom.
my life. Everything. I'm like trying to CYA everything in my whole life.
I think you have to. I feel
I'm
like I have to
put
CYA
a
myself when I
PSA.
walk out of the house.
Yeah, I was gonna say I have to put a PSA on my whole life so that I can't get sued.
But
for
I think
shit.
it's important for everybody, actually, not only moms, but everybody. Didn't realize when you go to the doctor or whatever you're doing, a lot of people are trying to CYA, and they're telling. That's why there's so much more information out there now that you probably don't want to know, right? But also maybe it'll save your life too.
Yeah.
But
that's tough.
But it makes it, that's a whole other challenge of the first year that I'm going through. Where
what other
like,
challenges are you feeling in this first year? Because you, even for him, for you, the hormones, like you were saying, feeling left out. Do you feel like
I feel like significant pressure. So this isn't something I think like. I don't want anyone to like listen to this who like, because actually another really good friend of mine had a baby a couple months after me, and she's full-time mom. She's stay-at-home mom. I'm not. I am home, but I work from home, and
so does your husband
and so does Dale, and like we are juggling, who's taking care of Reese, and at the end of the day, like we are going to put her into daycare. But for the first year, we were like very like, we want to keep her home. Like we want her to be home. We want her to be with us. And so we hired a nanny. We had a sitter. We've gone through we had a sitter for a little while, and then that didn't stick. And then we got another sitter who was great, but she went back to school. And then my sister-in-law, like shout out to Devin Smith. But she was a rock star. She's been like coming and helping us out a lot too, which has been a blessing. But now like we're posed with the fact that we're going to have to put her in, into daycare, because we live in a society now again where, you need two incomes. You can't have one income anymore unless you are like, I don't know. Who knows who you are. And, hey,
also,
if anybody wants to like pick up on this podcast, I'm,
help her become a mommy influencer.
Help me become a mom full time, not objecting to it.
It will go straight to our children.
To the children.
And maybe one Chanel bag. But, but what I was going to say is I think it's also, it's an economic reason.
Yeah.
But also it depends on the person too. Some people want to work.
Oh, I don't.
Totally.
Okay.
No,
Lauren
okay.
doesn't.
Wait, I shouldn't say that.
Or you want a specific you wish you had more flexibility to like create that life of a job that you could work a certain amount of hours or something like that.
Yeah.
Right? Some people still do want to work. It just depends. Like it's so
I think it is
complicated.
good for my mental health that I do work. I do think in the long term, because I've had I've had a week where like I would just be with Reese myself, and it's very trying because it's hard. It's hard to be the sole caretaker of a human being.
Yes.
And I love her. I mean, I don't think we've said we can't say it enough. Like we love our baby. Like I love Reese, you love Sky. Like, but I feel like at certain points too, like I need a breather.
You're also a human.
I'm a human.
It's like when you have a nanny or a babysitter, they're watching them from 8 to 6 or whatever. So they still get that break the rest of the day, right?
Oh,
it's like
different.
when you're watching a baby,
you're 24/7.
It's 24/7.
We're 24/7.
Which is different.
I think I could do it if that really was like my sole job. Like if someone said to me tomorrow, like you don't need to work, you could just stay home with Reese and be with Reese, then I would know like, okay, when she's down for her nap, that's me time. You know what I mean? Like, but
you could rearrange your life and know how to get your time.
I'm trying to do like my pressure of me is we talked about in the beginning, like do it all.
No.
And I'm trying to do it all right now. And it's like, and I know it's not, actually physically, mentally, like it's not possible, but I'm trying to. And like, I dread sending her to daycare because I just
that's a whole other topic though.
That's a whole nother topic, but she's going to go there. And then, you know, but I feel like as much as I don't want to do that to her,
it's important
for me a little bit too, because I need a little bit of myself and I need to do my job. I like have a job and I need to perform. And like, I think I've had it's been a pretty good run of keeping her home. Yeah. And now it's time to take the next step and, you know, let myself kind of go back a little bit to what I do. Yeah. And I do like what I do in some sense. But it's that time and it's rough. It's a really emotional thing of trying to like make sure that who's going to be with your child is going to love and care about your child just as much as you do. Yeah. And that's what's the hardest thing is because, you know, I do every nap, I do every feeding, I do every bedtime with her. Like that's me. I think like this week Dale did a nap because I like had a meeting and I was like, you really have to do this nap.
Love you, Dale.
Yes, thanks. But like but I think I don't know if you feel like this.
And then and then he was like, shh.
Yeah, he was like, don't talk. He was like, stop speaking. Don't speak.
Don't speak on your Zoom.
Don't drop a pen. I dropped a pen. It's like, I don't know if you feel like this, and maybe this is just a me thing. And Dale, I love you. Like this isn't any. I just feel like the pressure is always on the mom.
Oh, 100%.
It's the mom.
100%.
When it comes to work, like if someone's given up their time, it's the mom who's giving up their time. Like if Sky's in school one day and he calls out and he's sick and
who are they calling first?
Who are they calling? They're calling you. They're calling me. So my mom said that to me too, very loosely, because I was kind of venting to her last night a little bit because we had just gotten through this work week of like, and this week like it was Dale and me on our own with Reese. Like we didn't have any help this week. Right. So I just kind of was faced with the fact that like it's gonna fall on me for majority, not all. And I'm not saying like Dale does a lot, you know,
but this is a society thing. And
but it's a society thing.
Talking about,
yes.
Who is the first person a nurse is going to think about? Who's the first person the boss is going to think about? Who's the first person anyone's going to think about to give you the responsibility?
There's no leniency in terms of our like job, though. That's crazy.
Yes, right. And that's and there is, and I've had a very good. I feel like my boss has been very accepting because she also has kids. Yeah. But I think too,
if you mentally too, you're like, I want to do a good job.
Exactly.
Like, I don't want it to look like I'm slack.
You put your own pressure on yourself.
You put your own pressure.
You do. Yeah. So I think like it's coming to terms with a lot of different things as a. Like these are all things that like you don't think about.
As a mom, as a friend, in all the aspects of your life now, right? Your relationship to yourself has changed. It's not even just your relationship to other people. 100%. You're navigating that right now. And I think that's true even for me, and I don't have a kid. My relationship to myself has changed as well. Like who I look at myself as and everything is different than it was pre-COVID.
Right.
And I think that just comes to the bottom line of this whole point of like everything that we've been talking about is like this idea of grace that we need to give others and we need to give back to ourselves. Yeah. I think that you have to allow yourself that compassion that you would to another friend. That feeling you would try to give to me, give to yourself. You got to do that for each other. But you do need the support of your friendships. How important. I mean, it's so important with all these changes that you guys are going through, that I'm going through, that even though we are in somewhat different tree branches, like we keep talking about, we have to come together and continue to come together for each other, no matter what.
And I may validate each other.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
You know, everything. Like sometimes I think that's the issue too, is some people like, I mean, I don't do this, but it's like, oh, my baby is going through this. And it's like, that's more important than whatever you're going. But like, no, that's not the case.
Yes.
Like
I
love
all, that point. I love that point. We always say this with mental health. Everyone's going through something. Right.
At all times.
It may, and this is what I've always thought about the human condition. We all have the same emotions: fear, anger, happiness, joy. Well, you name them.
It's like the movie Inside Out. If you haven't seen it, watch it.
I've seen it.
It's
Is that the kids'
Pixar.
movie?
Yeah, but
yes,
it's about everybody's
teaching the emotions.
Right.
Yeah. And my point is about that is that in the human condition, the way we as humans get all judgy and whatever stems from the fact that we forget we all have the same emotions. They just take different forms.
Right. Yeah.
So what I'm going through here as a single person with my existential stupidness and crisis, whatever.
No, but that's
it's
valid.
See,
but
you're invalidating your
so
feelings
sorry.
right there.
You're
Stop.
totally right.
Don't say
Stop.
it's
done.
Stop
But
it.
what I'm going through is, even if you're not going through that right now, I know I have my friends. I know that they're there and that they love me anyway, and they can validate that for me. Right? Like, even if I can't understand what you're going through, I don't have postpartum depression, or I didn't go through a hard labor, or I don't know what it's like to not sleep because of my child. I can still, as a friend, be there for you.
Yeah.
Right. I don't
Right.
have to be going through the exact same circumstance, but the feeling of pressure, the feeling of sadness, the feeling of joy, the feeling, I can celebrate that joy with you, even if I've never felt that specific joy.
Right,
I can
right.
sit in the sadness with you, even if I've never felt that exact sadness.
Yep.
I can understand pressure, even if that's taken a different form in my life. And I think that's such a huge message to understand in all relationships is you don't have to be going through the exact same circumstance as the other person, but you're going to feel the same things. We're humans. That's what connects us.
Yep.
And if we can lean into that in our relationships, especially in like what we're talking about today, friendships changing over time with babies and marriage and being in our 30s, if we can lean into that, we're going to have way more success and feel more fulfilled and connected than if we just shut each other off because we're like, I
segregate
can't
each other
it.
for being like,
and place you in a box.
Mom group. Here's
Here's the mom group. You
like,
can still
you
can still be together and be there for each other and feel connected.
Yeah, I think that's very true with this table, right? With the three of us. I feel like I've never been shy to go to you specifically and like bitch about something with like anything. I mean, but
baby
even
stuff,
baby
whatever
stuff.
it is.
And I've never felt a barrier or like, oh, I never felt like I'm exceeding my limit of how many times I've talked about how I have not
slept.
Should
I start a tally?
You know? No, I'm just kidding. Maybe you have. I never felt like that happened with us, and same to you. Like a little bit of a different boat. Like we're both going through it, right? So like we never. What I said earlier, like if you have friends that are doing that to you, that are making you feel that way, that like you can't go to them.
The tit for tat thing.
The tit for
like
if
we
you're
talk about
keeping
like romantic
keeping a
relationships,
record
like
of things,
that's not okay.
That's not
how it should
healthy.
be.
I've had relationships like that, and I feel like that for
It's
me is a
foundation.
personal thing for me because I've had friends that do that, and that's not healthy, and I've like moved away from that, and I really feel like I've come to a point in my life where I've selected friends who are going to be there for me, and they're healthy friends for me.
Look,
like,
and no one's perfect. We're not. None of us sitting here.
You don't
are
have
perfect.
to be perfect, but I think the people you need to be friends with need to have. So, like it's a give and take, and you know that as much as you're giving right now, or how much you're taking, you know that
at
one
some
day
point
it's going to turn
come
around,
and
you're gonna.
That's the 50-50 thing, the 70-30, the 60-40.
It's 50-50
It flip-flops.
average. It's
Average.
like, but then like
It's ups
1
and
year
downs.
it's
Tis
10,
the
90. Like,
Seasons of life.
I love all of our like little like themes here. We've
yeah.
got
A lot of
branches,
themes.
we have seasons, we
It's
have
very nature.
It is. It's beautiful.
We're like
and
very
it's like
nature
a
right now.
terrible day outside right now.
disgusting
It's
and
gross,
rainy.
but
The name of the podcast is Permanent Markers. I did a little 5-minute explanation that anyone can listen to if they want to about why it's called Permanent Markers, which is because, you know, as we go through life, there are very specific moments that make a mark on your life, and they're permanent. They're there. They can twist you into one direction or another direction, change a perspective, change a relationship, whatever that is. Is there any one thing that you can think of that is a permanent marker on your life, where you can pinpoint a moment, a thought, a saying, a song, anything, a movie that you saw that changed? It doesn't have to be a drastic change. It could just be something that stuck with you. I would say the group of friends that I made, like you two, and then other people who I'll call the Pommies, they'll know who they are. My life would be so different if I didn't have these people that I met at this first job.
plus 1,000 to that.
Yeah. Like if
God.
that part of my life changed so much for me, gave me a home, gave me my best friends. It gave me some people to navigate things with.
Yeah.
My reality would be so different if I didn't have that experience. Okay, so you guys go.
Beautiful.
Relating to what Julia just said around RJ Palmer was meeting, you know, like you go through college, you go through high school, you have your friends, you kind of think they're set.
Right.
And then all of a sudden you're like, what? Who are these amazing people?
know.
Who are these people?
And like, and yeah, I mean, meeting Julia and Lauren, like who now, you know, again, over 10 years later, like so important to my life, truly.
Yeah.
But then even to
Crying.
like think about like, I literally said as I was leaving the house today to my husband, Russ, I was like, if it wasn't for Julia, I wouldn't have Sky. I wouldn't be able to talk about.
Gosh.
I literally
That's
wouldn't
very true.
be
beautiful.
talking to you in general, obviously. But then also, even if I had met you and you like we didn't go to Firefly, if you weren't
You should just quickly say so people have the background.
Oh yeah.
Real
So the
short.
background real quick is that Julia and I were, you know, talking about going to this festival when we were 23 or 24, I guess we were. And we tried to rally the troops and
It was like,
not
yeah,
a
I
lot of
think
might have
people-
tried to go. I couldn't go for some reason.
Yeah.
I don't
know
even-
why, but
yeah,
it was just
I
the
don't
two
know
of
that you
us.
work. Yeah.
No,
you-
no,
you
I was
did,
there.
you
I was
did.
there, yeah.
Yeah. Right. So it was like everybody had their random thing.
It was
That it
stuff.
was like
One of those moments where you're like, actually, do I have friends? Because nobody wants to go to this.
But Julia and I were like, you know what? We really want to
Screw
go to
it.
this. Let's do it. Like, and it was kind
We
of
stayed in a
last
hotel that
minute.
was like 2
2
hours
hours
away from the
away,
festival.
you
Spent
know?
$150 on an Uber. And
Right.
no, a cab
Yeah,
because there were no
a cab.
Ubers.
Ubers weren't really a thing back then. Like, truly.
Oh my
digress.
God,
I
guys.
digress.
We were before
But
Uber.
I mean, talk about permanent markers. Like that whole trip in my life. I mean, as much as we're getting further and further away from it, it was that day was the day that I met my husband, and Jules and I walked in and we were like, where are the porta potties?
didn't
Like,
know
I don't
what
even,
we
it
were
was our
doing.
first festival in
Yeah.
life, and this like gorgeous 6'6" guy comes up to us and is like, to me to be like
Let's be
6'1", like, well, I don't know, he's just a vibe. Like he
was such
I
a
like to
vibe.
think that he sensed
I
both
looked
of our
nice.
vibes. Like
I looked like a nice person.
but
No,
yeah,
he looked at
it
a
was-
stunning tall blonde and said, guessed her height or whatever.
Aw,
Boom.
yeah.
And then for some reason I had the foresight. I took a picture of the two of them.
Yeah,
Right.
like
Then in there 3
20
seconds into
seconds
meeting.
later.
I know that
Letter-
picture.
literally
I don't know
yeah,
why.
I've seen. Yeah, that's a great picture of you guys.
like-
yeah.
I don't know why,
Yeah.
but I did.
Yeah.
And then we spent the whole festival with him.
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah.
Wow.
long story short, they're married and have a kid.
Hashtag love
yeah.
at first height. Still remember
at
that?
first
That was a good one. That was a really
forgot
good
about that.
hashtag.
Yeah, that was. Someone came up. You might
Aw,
have even
don't make
come
me
up with
cry.
that.
That was
I don't
great.
know.
Beautiful.
But anyways,
Yeah.
a permanent moment in my life is like, again, I wouldn't be obviously talking here if I hadn't met Julia, but also I wouldn't have Sky for
Yeah,
sure. I
isn't
would
that
have
wild?
maybe have a baby with someone, but
And
like,
chain
I
of
wouldn't have
events.
Sky.
We know why. We don't have to talk about it, but we know why you were available that weekend. Don't you remember? You can wink at me.
Yeah.
But
Love
which is-
you, but thank you for not getting married that weekend.
Yeah, they know who they are. But like that's what I'm saying. Life is crazy.
Right, exactly.
It is.
Life is crazy.
Well, thank you
So,
for that. That was beautiful.
Yeah, permanent marker on my life
You're
forever.
sweet. You're sweet.
I feel a little redundant. Mine's a little bit kind of different, but the same. I mean, starting RJ Palmer, my first job changed my whole life. From that job, I mean, now I have a career of that job, and whether I do good at that or not, I don't know. But I have
Comment in.
you guys maybe had different college experiences than I did, but I stayed home. I went to Queens College. I didn't venture far away from home. And I don't think I had the true college experience that a lot of people do who go away. There was no pressure for me to like leave the house, and I was more of a homebody. And I worked a ton through college. And so when I got to RJ Palmer, really didn't know what to expect, but ended up working with a bunch of 20 somethings my age.
Who knew?
And who knew? And that could be a podcast in itself,
Yeah,
like just our times there.
Seriously.
But I met my husband at this job. I met you, and you were my maid of honor at my wedding. Wendy,
I did throw in a good office quote in your speech.
You did. I know.
Let's talk about that.
I mean, like, I have so many things that I got out of it incredibly, and I have to say this, like, I got out of such an incredibly toxic relationship, like, within my first 6 months at that job, because I realized that there, like, to anybody who's listening to this, like, there's more to life than like whatever you're going through. If you're going through like a hard time, if you're not happy, if there's something going on in your life that really just is a downer, like you can get out of it. Like you can, like there is always an exit. Like you just have to find it. And like starting that job, I was able to find that exit, and I was able to get out of something that was incredibly toxic and terrible. And I feel like I don't know. I just wouldn't have the life I have right now if I didn't get that job.
Walking to that 70s looking office.
Yeah. Oh God. I mean,
changed forever.
My gosh. I met so many fun people, so many cool people. Like not only just like
I had
my
a
husband
blast
and
like going out with you.
We all had such a great
Family
time.
Feud.
Family. Oh my God. We'd sit at
Oh my
God. We
God.
would watch
Family
Family
Feud at lunch,
Feud
1
reruns
p.m.
in the lunchroom.
So good.
Oh my God. I mean,
We're not Gen Zers, guys.
no.
Yeah.
No, clearly not.
Yeah.
But that was a great time in my life. Just I think finding myself too. Like I didn't know who I was. I think I also found who my real friends were, and I kind of broke out of a few friendships that just were not serving me at the time either. Not serving me. I don't mean that in like a weird way.
You know,
but like it just, you need to have a give and take, and that wasn't what I was getting either at the time.
Giving you any benefit
No.
at that point.
So
right?
I think that it's a positive, and like there was I
There's
think
a
my
mourning
life was
period
very
too.
negative.
When things change, you can go through a mourning period.
Yeah.
Like I think I'm actually mourning. That's the word. I couldn't come up with it when you were asking me about being single and stuff. I think I'm mourning a few things right now. An old way of life. I'm going to say some other friendships, just a mourning period I'm going through a little bit with the changes that are happening.
Yeah.
So I'll throw that out there that I couldn't think of that before.
That's fair.
Well, also,
know?
I feel like we all go through those mourning periods. It's everybody
Right,
goes through,
every
right?
stage.
Like,
Every
and I was
stage.
going to talk about, my permanent marker of who, like, when we talked a lot about your knee surgeries, I also dreamed of being a professional women's basketball player, and then had 3 knee surgeries, and it was like that was a moment
well, put that
where
in context
like,
too of your family.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And the high
exactly.
achieving they
high
were in the
achieving.
sport.
My brother plays in the NBA, and it wasn't even for him that I felt pressure to play basketball. It was just I grew up. I loved it. I played with my best friend Kate. Like it was just everything.
You're also like 6 foot plus, so
she had
right
the
up there.
skills.
I tend to, the DNA was there to help me in that regard.
Yes.
So I really, when you're a kid, you just try and think like, what am I going to do? They always ask, what do you want to be when you grow up? And then you feel that kind of pressure to be like, what am I going to be? I got to decide this at this point, even when you're 18,
silly, but
like when you decide your major. So I really, truly thought that I would do something in basketball or in fitness at that point in time. And then I, hurt my knee going into freshman year and ended up having 3 knee surgeries ever since.
I didn't know it was going into, that's what I did.
It was going into my freshman year. Yeah.
Same.
So it was like, I didn't even get to prove anything at that point. Yeah.
Right.
Right.
That's a permanent marker right there.
Like, yeah, you think that's your course, or not even
right.
that's
You're
my
mourning
course.
what you thought
like,
would be.
Even
like
if I wasn't a professional, right? Like, yeah, you just think
that
that's
a good college career.
I'll have a good
You're
college
like, I'll have
career.
a great college career.
Yeah.
I'll end up happy with whatever happens, but you don't even get that.
You don't even get that.
But
It
yeah,
stops
you
you
know
before
what?
you start.
That's a permanent marker on your life, but that permanent marker
Makes
put
who
you
are.
who you
on
are.
the trajectory that you are on now.
Yeah.
Right.
And you
Right.
have everything you have right now
Yeah.
because of that.
Right.
High school and college, there was a lot of negative that I never shared with a lot of people. I think I've shared it maybe a bit with you, but I feel like that has all made me a much stronger person now. Totally. I don't think that I would have the ability to deal with certain situations now. Totally. I don't think I would have the relationship I have now. I have demands on my relationship with my husband that I'm like, I will not accept this. Right. And it's not even a question. He's like, yeah okay. But like, I know what I will and will not accept in my life. There are certain things that I might look out for that because of what I went through that I will not let her do because I don't want that for her. Right. And like, I want her to be happy. And sometimes I think when you're that young, you think this makes you happy and you're happy for like, and then maybe I'm like, hey, look, you'll be sad about it for like a month. You'll be fine. And you'll get over it and you won't have like that level of trauma in your life. I'd rather that. Right. So I think like whatever we've all gone through in our past, whether it's negative or positive, we're here today at this table talking about it because we went through that. So like basketball career, while ideal and like something you were like looking at very fondly, didn't happen, but it didn't happen and now you are where you are. Are you happy where you are right now? If the answer is yes, then it doesn't matter.
You're right. You're right. I am happy.
And it's all the perspective you learn.
Important. Yeah. It's what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Absolutely.
It's very true. God, Britney Spears, we love you, but get it together.
My last question was, you kind of started going into it about what you will or whatever will not do with Reese. What are you most looking forward to experiencing with your child in the next few years?
I would say just them living life and like realizing the beauty of it, like, because I feel like
the wonder.
And I feel like the thing is, when the first year, that's what's cool about having a little baby, is they think the little things are so cool. Like you blow air on their face and they're like, what is that? Like
they're amazed by
it. It's literally what's like, his name? Will Ferrell
coming from?
In Elf.
Exactly.
It's true. Like that is like Will Ferrell in Elf is true. Like that's what it is dealing with a child. Like, they're amazed by chewed gum under the subway.
So all I hope for Sky in general is just that he, if he feels like he needs to drink a little bit, like fine, blah, 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 like do what you have to do, but like just focus on the things that make you happy, like in life. And I feel like a lot of us
get lost in
feeling like, oh, I have to like play a sport. I have to like play an instrument, or I have to get this job. I have to know what my career is at this point. But Russ and I are very much trying, Sky, like Russ is 6'6", I'm 6'2", right? Everybody's like, oh, I want to invest in your baby, like whatever. Like, but it's no, but literally people are like, because he's going to be he's going to probably be tall, but like watch him be somebody that like doesn't like any sport. And I would love him.
Play the cello. He could
super
be
artistic.
A painter.
Loves to paint.
Yeah.
Like there's
a dancer.
No
writer. I don't know.
Dancer. If he wants to be a woman, it's like, I don't know, whatever he wants to do, like. So that's where I just want him to follow his own course. And that's all I want for him, is to feel comfortable coming to us to tell us, these are my joys, these are my fears, this is what I want to do.
Being able to come to you and talk about it.
Because I don't think
he may not even know what he likes or doesn't like, but the idea that he can feel comfortable enough to talk to his parents
to
about
tell
whatever
us
it is,
because
it's a lack of judgment. That's beautiful.
That's all.
What about you, Lauren?
I don't know if I have short-term goal. It's more just like, hey, like let her do things at her own pace. Long-term is like a longer thought of mine. Like short-term, like they're still little, right? Like I just want her
to
eat
and poop and just do all the things.
Just, what, short-term sleep. Like just I love you, Reese, just sleep. If anybody who's listening to this podcast knows me, you know that I have had some very big struggles with sleep. So long-term I think is a bit more thought out. I think, and I've thought about this a lot. And I've also talked to Dale about it too. Like, I didn't go away to school. Dale went away to school. I want Reese to know that whatever she wants to do, like in her life, like she can do. And I had the freedom to do that too. Like I chose to stay home. My parents weren't like, you have to stay home. You know what? I don't want to ever make her feel like she has to do something.
Right.
But I will say to her, like, we'll go drive to the school if you want to go look at it. Like, I will take you here. I want her to get the most out of her life when she's young, because I don't know if this is like a self, like, I don't know. I don't want to sound like
you're
lame.
putting your stuff on her.
Yeah. I'm not, but like, I feel like I wanted more out of life for myself, and like, I want her to get that now.
Yeah.
So like,
that's fair.
Dale and I are like, if she wants to stay home, if that's truly what she wants to do, and she wants to go to Queens College like her mom did.
Yeah.
Not that I'm, whatever. But like, she can. I want her to do that, and I want her to know that nothing will ever hinder her to do that. I will always push for, if that's what she wants to do, we'll make it happen, because I want her to, when she is my age, she's 35. Oh God. Have I admitted my age?
I definitely have.
Well, when she's in her mid 30s, I want her to look back and say, I did some pretty cool stuff. Reese, if you're listening to this, your mom wants you to have everything above and beyond.
This was so awesome. Sitting around this table talking to you guys is just honestly the best. You give so much of yourselves, especially in this conversation, because this is not easy stuff to talk about. So thank you for that. And for
we love
giving
you.
us your little hearts.
Goodness. Have us back again.
We will
love to do this again.
We can.
Part two.
We
There's
have
so much untapped.
Way too many things to talk about.
Untapped information.
Yeah, but big thank you to Wendy and Lauren. My heart is full after this conversation.
So are ours.
Very appreciative, and hopefully this helps someone out, feel less alone.
I hope.
Whatever it is.
So.
But we will talk soon.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.